Barstool, Big Cat, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Barstool, Big Cat? What's up, Cat?
I am doing great,
Dan?
Rich. I apologize that it took so long.
Yeah, what's good? What happened?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If J.J. Watt had texted you, I assume you have J.J. Watt's phone number. If J.J. Watt had texted you a half hour ago and said, hey, I want to call into the show at 2:20 Eastern,
Yep.
would I have been bumped?
No, you wouldn't have, Dan, because I am a man of my word. My word is my bond. And I'm like, I got Barstool Big Cat 220. Can I get you to do it a little later?
Here's the other part of it. In the podcast world, when you tape an interview that you know is a good interview, and your interview was great, and it was a very fun time, we had a great time.
I would agree.
And everyone loved it. But when you tape something that you know is good, it's nice to hold it in your back pocket because you just know maybe there's a weekend where there's not a lot to talk about, like this past weekend was the NBA All-Star Weekend. So we're going to run a great interview to carry the show.
Okay.
So you carried the show today, so thank you.
Okay, Barstool Big Cat here on the Rich Eisen Show, just describing my conversation as filler right here on the program. Very good. I appreciate that, Dan. I hope it filled that hole for you. It's
it
good.
Did. It did. People loved it, and I thought we could have done a little more Game of Thrones talk, but otherwise it was an
you
A+.
didn't care about it, Dan. See, now that's the thing too. By the way, you have cornered the market on so many great things in our industry, which is number one, asking a question you have no interest in the answer to. That the joke is in the question.
Yes.
You do that a lot.
Correct.
I got a lot of that right there. So, right for you right here, Dan, right here on the show, how does it feel to be a fan of a school whose football team, by kicking a field goal, outscores the basketball team by 1 every single time?
That's good. Okay. So I think being a fan of Wisconsin the last 15 years has been a lot better than being a fan of Michigan. I'd say 29 wins better in terms of football.
Is that right?
I looked it up. Yeah, 29 wins better in the last 15 years. And I even threw in a Lloyd Carr year for you, just so that you can't scream that I'm being biased and picking a completely arbitrary date.
Right.
We got into it on Part of My Take, and my point remains. What you did is you made me attack something I actually like. I actually like Jim Harbaugh. I think Jim Harbaugh's a good football coach.
How did I make you attack Jim Harbaugh then, Dan?
Because Michigan fans, delusional Michigan fans, think Jim Harbaugh is a great football coach. They think he is a special football coach. They think he is Urban Meyer. They think he is Nick Saban. They think he's Dabo Swinney. They think he is in that conversation, and the problem is he just isn't.
Well, when have I ever said that?
Well, I think.
When have I ever said that? Aren't you holding against me what you think other Michigan fans hope for in their coach?
Well, so the problem is Michigan thinks that they matter still, and my underlying point when we talked about it on the show is Ohio State owns Michigan, and I know the common response would be, well, it's a rivalry that goes in waves, and it goes up and down, and sometimes Michigan's on top, sometimes Ohio State's on top.
Right.
It's been 20 years now, and if you look at what Ohio State does, they evolve, they adapt, they have gone into the next century in terms of football, whereas Michigan has not. And Jim Harbaugh has had a chance of multiple times. I mean, this past big game I was there. I was in the house. I was in Columbus. Because
you're Big J journalist, right?
Because I love the Big Ten football.
Sure.
I am passionate about Big Ten football.
Yeah, you are.
But what happened on that Saturday afternoon is embarrassing for Michigan, and I don't see any maybe they'll get their number once or twice, but if Jim Harbaugh stays there for the next 10 years and Ohio State stays doing what Ohio State has done, it will be, I don't know, maybe you're lucky if you win 2.
But Big Cat, isn't it true though that what you're doing right now by holding me responsible for what you think is Michigan football fandom writ large, the fact that you feel compelled to do that, isn't that an indication of just how you feel Michigan is viewed in a way that Wisconsin is not? The fact that you are upset that we don't think about Wisconsin as much as you clearly think about Michigan?
Hold on.
And that you're holding that against me personally, just because I don't wake up thinking, what's Paul Christ doing today? That you hold that against me? Like, oh my gosh, what's Hornerbrook doing right now? Like, I'm not thinking that. Big Cat.
The mistake here, though, is that I know Wisconsin doesn't matter. I know Wisconsin doesn't matter. Wisconsin is a very good football program at this point.
Right.
Always competing in the Big Ten, 9, 10 wins, pencil us in.
Yeah, it's good for you. That
doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. If I'm talking about competing for national championships, Michigan is no closer to that than Wisconsin. You are the same exact school. Michigan State is actually farther advanced in terms of that. And I don't think – I'm going to ask you this. Put you on the spot. Do you think Jim Harbaugh –
Put me on the spot.
Do you think Jim Harbaugh has what it takes to get Michigan to the playoff?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I disagree.
I know you disagree. And the fact that you are doing that and pointing it out when you actually deep down believe in Jim Harbaugh's ability, again, just points out some sort of inferiority complex that you have as a Wisconsin fan.
Well, no, because Big
Cat, hold on a second. Yeah. Because, again, Michigan versus Notre Dame that kicked off the college football season, one of NBC's highest-rated college football games of the year. The fact that Michigan, despite its unfortunate big game appearance, despite all that, still got a bowl game right there on a huge bowl day because Michigan draws the eyeballs and draws the interest and draws the hate. Big Cat draws the hate clearly from you.
This is where it gets sad because what Michigan has become is what you just said. Michigan is ratings, and we're happy to be in a New Year's Day bowl game, but not in the college football championship.
No,
that means Michigan does not matter anymore. That doesn't matter.
Of course, I want to be in a different situation with that. You're talking about Michigan's relevance and the interest level, and I'm pointing out that you're way off base. Do you think J.J. Watt would be on your show if you didn't pound the table for Wisconsin as much as you do? Do you think you'd have his phone number if you weren't such a Badger homer?
I'm a little bit different. I actually think I'm pretty honest about Wisconsin sports, more so than most Michigan fans, and you in particular. I'm very honest about where they are and not really mattering. I'm honest about the perfect Wisconsin season is lightning in a bottle in terms of schedule. You saw that last year, or Russell Wilson that year. I'm very honest. Everyone who's been listening to me over the years knows I was at the Duke-Wisconsin final in Indianapolis for the Final Four. The Wisconsin beating Kentucky was one of the best nights ever. And when they lost to Duke, I said, as I'm walking out of that stadium, I said, we will never be back at this point, ever. We will never, ever be back at this point because Wisconsin just doesn't they don't recruit the type of athletes to be consistently at the top level of, college athletics. And I understand that, and I'm very open about it. I root for my team. I know we ultimately don't matter, and that's why I, as someone who doesn't matter, can say to you, hey, Rich, guess what? Michigan no longer matters.
It's just you'll never drag us down to your level.
You are us.
You
are us. We are the same. We are one and the same.
Definitely.
We are all just
not.
Ohio State is all of our daddies. That's it.
I could have sat here, Big Cat, and said, you know what? After Robert Tractor Trailer crapped out, that we would never be back in some sort of college basketball perch. I could have thought the same thing as you because Michigan doesn't recruit the type of athletes, the one-and-done athletes that Kentucky or Duke does. But who is in the national championship game 2 times in the last 5 years? Who's potentially back in that mix this year?
Again, you're talking about...
I'm saying it's the 30-year anniversary of Glenn Rice that's coming up this year. I could have sat there 30 years ago saying, we'll never be back there again. We'll never do this again. I'm never going to give up. Just never. Because I have the heart of a champion.
No.
Big Cat.
What you do is you have delusion thinking this is Harvard of the Midwest stuff that everyone just shoves in your brain when you go to Ann Arbor for 4 years, and you stand in a puddle of water at Rick's, in the basement of Rick's, and think it's a good college experience. And then you come out and say, yeah, we matter, and hey, what do we matter for? We matter for ratings and losing national championships.
Oh,
it don't matter.
My gosh. All right, so let's move on quickly to something more compelling. Now that you've had me as a guest, who's the guest that you really want on the show? Who's your great white whale? Have you had Costas on yet? Have you had Costas?
No, we've not had Costas on.
Because you would ask him a ton of questions that you have no interest in the answer to and just use his resume as the joke sounding board.
Yes.
You'd do
Yes,
that, right?
Costas would be very interesting. We're currently in communication with Kevin Durant. So a lot of the times it's guys who we are critical of, and
Okay.
then J.J. Watt was one of them. We were very critical of J.J. Watt, and he's become a friend. And so shifting from being critical of someone and then finding a way to have them on and kind of show a different side of the person to our audience.
Okay. So Durant. So you've been critical. Why are you critical of Durant?
I think Durant, he cares like a little too much. He pretends, he does that thing where he's like, I don't care what the people say, but then reads every Instagram post and gets in fights with like 14-year-olds on the comments section of his Instagram page.
Okay.
Like you just say that you do care, and I think people really people would kind of move on, but you can't say, well, I don't care what people say and then have a burner account. You know what I mean?
That's true. Do you want to do a makeshift start bench cut with Big Cat Brockman?
Oh, I like
Is that
this
what you
idea.
want to?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do it.
So we have a shtick on this show, Big Cat, of a start bench cut where you gotta start one, you gotta bench one, you gotta cut one. Okay. We give you three choices. Here we go. Go ahead.
It's time. Start now. Bench.
Just sit down and be quiet.
Or cut.
All right. Do you have the music right there, Mike Del Tufo? Because we have some. This is our production value here. Yours was setting up the coffee cups in the background with us having our conversation. So go for it, Brockman.
Yeah, Big Cat. Start bench cut of guests on your show. Rich, Dan Patrick, Scott Van Pelt.
Oh my gosh.
That's easy. Start Scott Van Pelt, bench Dan Patrick, cut Rich.
What the hell, man?
That wasn't even that was a
What?
no-brainer. I mean,
What?
I'm friends with Scott. We've had Dan Patrick on multiple times, and we're
Right.
very good friends with the Danettes. And you still think Michigan matters. So I can't deal with that type of delusion. That's like you're the guy who shows up in the huddle, and I'm like, all right, Rich, go set a screen over there, and then you're chucking 40-footers, thinking you're the best player on the team. That's Michigan.
You need to watch the television portion of this conversation when we tweet it out later if you're not watching right now, because you want to describe my sweater to Big Cat right now?
I mean, look, it was one of the funniest questions I've ever heard. It's very dad-like today. I think you would really appreciate
It's stylish.
it.
It's very stylish today. It's zip
I
up.
like your sweaters. I think your sweater game is on point. We can all hope to someday get to that point of that's like you basically, when people buy flashy cars just because they want everyone to see how much wealth they have. And I'm not saying that that's what you're doing with your sweaters, but it's an air of, it's like the Jim Nantz look. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You walk into a room and people say this guy's important and he probably has like a 6 handicap.
Does this show that I have a 6 handicap?
I mean, you don't have a 6 handicap.
No.
I know that for a fact.
Well, I'd wear this sweater
you
more if it
definitely
makes
don't.
people think that I've got a 6 handicap. I'll take that.
I was trying to compliment you.
No. By the way, definitely
we all
you
do.
were not. There were definitely. I love it, man. What you and PFT commenter are doing, it's a fun little I guess. What would you
Yeah,
do? We
little.
call it a
Yep.
sword fight? A little
Little.
sword fight?
That's
No.
nice.
No.
Yeah,
By the way, no. Hold on a second. I hate it when people use that word. It's like a little sword fight. But
Yeah.
your podcast is huge. It's monumental. How does that sound? Is that good? Is that better? It is big.
It's in Rich Eisen's mind. It is the Michigan of podcasts.
Oh my gosh,
That's perfect, right?
dude! It is perfect.
By the way, PFT
It is perfect.
PFT just tweeted a Game of Thrones question. If you want to take this,
Yeah, I'll
Rich.
take it. I'll take it live.
Who's your favorite direwolf?
Oh my gosh, who's my favorite?
Jerry Garcia.
But he doesn't care. Would you say Jerry Garcia?
Yeah, great song.
He doesn't care. The mascot of the Philadelphia Flyers. Just answer that, okay? That's my biggest.
The correct answer is Ghost because it's
Okay,
Jon
but he
Snow's
doesn't
direwolf.
care. They don't watch Game of Thrones.
I know. They
I
should.
want to.
You should though.
Someday I'm going to watch it. The anxiety of being like, I need to sit down and watch this show for the next however many hours it takes to finish. It's overwhelming, and then I'll sit there and just not do anything for those hours, which I could have been watching it, but it feels a little bit more liberating knowing that I haven't, tied myself down to watching this show about dragons and whatever goes on there.
Well, I loved being on your podcast, Big Cat. It was a lot of fun. If I could change only one aspect of the experience, I would change the fact that the photograph that we took on my show set afterwards with the Lombardi Trophy being placed directly in between my legs, I would change that. Because all of your listeners picked up on that, and I didn't even see that when I posted that photograph. It's just it's a learning experience in a way for me, being on your pod. Yeah.
The best way to win is to take a bad picture. I've been perfecting that for the last 7+ years. When you take a bad picture and everyone can make fun of you for it, you've won the day.
You should see the headshot we have for you right now on the show.
There we go.
It's
I'm sure
great.
it's terrible, and people will be tweeting it to me all day long, and it's beautiful.
No, it's very Gomez Adams. Actually, is what it looks like.
That's actually a great.
It's a very but like the Raul Julia Gomez Adams.
Oh, rest in peace.
Is that someone in Game of Thrones?
No. All right, Big Cat. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for having me on your pod, on your show.
Absolutely, anytime. You're a recurring guest, so you have to come on when we ask. So
Okay.
That's just the
No. That's absolutely certainly since you just cut me. I've just been cut, but if you want to take me off the cut list, that's fine.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Take care. This is Barstool's Dan Katz.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.